Cool. I think we can get started. So yeah, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining today. This is like our first official kind of show and tell of Figma plugin since we launched or came out of beta. We did one of these during the beta where plugin developers were sort of giving everyone a sneak peek of what they were working on just to other people in the beta. And we're hoping to do more of these on sort of like a monthly cadence where people can showcase what they're working on. And for anyone that's also interested in developing plugins, this is also like a good chance for you to ask questions to plugin developers, either about features or things that you'd like to build in plugins of your own if you're not sure about how to do something. And yeah, so with that said, we have the Q&A feature in Zoom. So everybody should be muted, but you can use the Q&A and ask questions through text. And after each presenter's presentation, I'll sort of like read the questions out loud for the developers who are showcasing their plugins, and we can go from there. And then any remaining questions that we didn't get a chance to address during the presentation, we'll do at the end. So without further ado, I'll just give myself a quick introduction. I'm Tom. I'm a designer advocate at Figma. I've also been building some plugins of my own. I hope to show some of the stuff that I'm working on in a future show and tell. But today, our first presenter is Jono from Toybox.
Hello?
Hey, we can hear you.
Hey, great.
Cool.
So I guess I'll share my screen.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. Can everyone see this?
Looks great.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Jono from Toybox, and I'm really excited to demo a plugin we've been working on that we like to call Roller. And so the problem we're really trying to solve with this plugin is, are my design files consistent with the rest of my team? And so whether your team has a style guide or a full-blown design system, you're probably thinking about consistency in terms of color and text and borders and shadows and radius, among other things. But the problem is, like, in a real design file, especially in a tool like Figma where it's so collaborative and everything's going on in one place, there's so many layers made up of so many styles that it's like nearly impossible to manually go through each one of these and actually figure out what's wrong with the file. And so what Toybox does, or what Roller does, excuse me, is it automatically finds and fixes inconsistencies within your design file. And so all you have to do is launch the Toybox plugin, and it'll show you, oh, there's an error on this page. You can go into that typography section. You can select that error. We take you to that layer, and then you can select one of the rules from your predefined set of type styles, and then just fix it. And so the way that you would set this up for yourself is you would go to the library, and you can add all your colors, your text styles, borders, etc. You can like build out a shadow, anything like that. And then once you've got those all in there, you can go to a page in your design file that's hopefully prettier than this, but we would tell you every error with this page. And so then it's really easy to just cruise through this and fix each inconsistency within your file. And so we can do text. We can say, oh, there's that Comic Sans again. Let's make that fixed. And so on. So we do borders. That's like way too thick. Make that better. And so now we can see that we are 100% consistent. And so that was like a really simple example. This isn't something we've actually designed, but you can imagine in a real file, it's really crazy. And so you have tons of different errors, but what saves you a ton of time is you can select the style, and for every shade of gray, of this shade of gray, you can replace them all at once. And so if you were sure that you were consistent and something cropped up again like that, you're consistent, but then you added something, you can always double check, am I still consistent? And get back to 100% consistency. And so that's pretty much it. We're just at the beginning. So we are launching in the next few weeks, and you can sign up for early access at toyboxsystems.com/roller. And I'd love to hear, any feedback people have, any additional things they would want to audit against, things like that. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's going to be super useful. I've seen actually a lot of Twitter discussion going on about people that want to create a design system linter. And I think like the tricky thing is, or I guess like it's a little easier if you're building your own plugin because you could kind of like hard code some of those things in. And it's nice that you've given everybody the ability to like actually customize the tool with like a plugin that anyone can install to do it, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and so we tried our best to remain flexible within how you define your typography system. So like things like font family and font weight are pretty standard, but maybe you also enforce certain colors for certain type styles, and so you want to be able to audit against that. Maybe you even do like text decoration, things like that. So we're trying to make it as flexible as possible. So yeah.
That's awesome. And one question for me is, does initial setup from this like pull from styles that you have set up in Figma, or do you create them all in Toybox? What does that process look like?
Totally, yeah. Sorry. So I tried to like set up everything so the demo was smooth, because live demos are always scary. But
of course,
if you're starting this from scratch, when you go to add styles, this list will be pre-populated from your local styles.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And same goes for typography and border, or not border, but border colors, etc. Shadows, excuse me. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think there was only one question, and that was, will Toybox be free? And I think you covered some of this on the link on your, that was on your little intro slide, which I'll flip back to if you want to stop sharing your screen, and you can address it as well.
Sure. Yeah, so I don't know if the slide's going to come up, but so Toybox is freemium, and so everyone can lint against colors and text. And then it will be $2 a month if you want all the styles, and we'll be adding more styles as time goes on. And then we also have a team feature, so you can have one shared style guide across your whole team, and that's $3 per member. So you can use this and get a lot of value out of it for free, but we're trying to add premium features as time goes on.
Cool, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right, our next presenter. Are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Cool. Yeah, go for it. Feel free to introduce yourself, and I'll pass the screen share off to you.
All right. My name is Takasta Kidanu. I'm a front-end developer at Abercrombie & Fitch, but the plugins I'm going to show off today are going to be just my own work. It's not from Abercrombie & Fitch. So the first plugin I'm going to show off is going to be spell check. This was mostly inspired by this blog post here. This blog post right here from 1 year ago. There's a high rate of dyslexia in designers, but design tools don't have good spell check. And I did some research, and still true, like most of the design tools don't have a good spell check. So I went ahead and created this plugin. So let's say two workflows. The first one was, let's say you already have a Figma file that has some typos in it. So let me type in let's make some mistakes, right? And all you have to do now is just open up the spell check for Figma. And then, so this experience is supposed to mimic what you get in Google Docs. So you will be able to click on one of these guys or this guy to fix your error. And there is a count here that shows you how many typos you have. So if I just do this, the text gets updated. And then just like that, now your document is typo free. The next workflow is, let's say you are already, you created a new Figma file. So you would just open it up and then put it on the side like this. And then just you start typing. And then as soon as you start creating typos, the plugin will update itself. And then let's say I can't type today. So you will be able to fix those typos as you go along. So for this demo to get it in time, I was not able to add this feature where, just like in Google Docs, as soon as you make the typo, you would get squiggly red underlines under the text, or change the text to red so that you will get more immediate feedback than just what you see on the plugin. So I feel like this will be a very good plugin for people with dyslexia or people who are not even native English speakers, such as me. So that's it for this plugin and its functionality. I don't have a name for it. I'm just calling it spell check for Figma. So you can go to plugin.netlify.com and help me name it, like suggest names there. For more features that I'm thinking is, let's say you have a brand name that is not like an English word. I don't know, Figma might be detected, but if you don't want this to be called out as a typo every time you type it, you will have your own personal dictionary there. Another thing is, as if there are people around who are curious as how this works, I'm making use of the Microsoft API. They charge you about $7 per month to do, I think, 10,000 corrections. So yeah, that's what I'm making use of. And the Figma plugin API right now doesn't support events, like where, let's say, like on key down or someone is changing some text. So some other plugin developer called Martinez Liam, I think his name was, suggested to use set interval, and then I'm just constantly calling, sending messages to my plugin to mimic event-based, programming. So yeah, so this is my first plugin, and that's that. The second plugin is going to be creating mockups. So about 6 months ago, a designer by the name Johnny Bino reached out to me and said, I hate creating mockups with my hand. Is there any way you can help me automate it, like creating this kind of device mockups like these ones? So what we came up was cleanmark.com. So the idea was you just upload your images like so from your computer or whatever, and then you would be able to click on any of the mockups here and then download the image just like that. While this solved the problem halfway, but it was not fast enough. It was still cumbersome. You would have to go to your design tool, export the design as a PNG, and then let's say if you wanted to make some changes, you would have to go back to your design tool and then make some changes, come back to cleanmark.com and redo this entire process. But thanks to the intuitive Figma plugin API, I was able to create this functionality within Figma itself. So you don't have to leave your Figma document or file at all. So I'm just gonna do this. And then, so this, let's say this is your design. So all you have to do is open up the CleanMark for Figma plugin. And then you will have a list of mockups like this. So this one is just a basic iPhone 10 So all I have to do is just click this, and then tada, this is what you get, like with just a single click. I can't believe how fast this workflow is. Another thing is the plugins in Figma have the full capability of the Figma editor, except for some minor features. So the second feature that I added to this was it makes use of components in Figma. So let's say you are feeling good and you don't want your users' anxiety by showing them this red dot here, and you just delete it and it's gone from the mockup too. So this is a component, and the screen here is an instance of that component. So any change you make here will be reflected immediately on the mockup. So you don't have to regenerate or recreate your mockup again and again. I've made use of some tools and features to do this, but it wasn't that complicated. Mostly it was about using relative transforms and absolute transforms of this screen and then moving this into that. So, but with the website that I had, it was more like having to do it with CSS, which was very cumbersome and not efficient. So as a premium feature for this thing, what I'm thinking is, so by default, you'll get some mockups like this, but then you can create your own mockups that are customized to your brand. Let's say you can change some of the icons or the color of the mockup and all that. Okay, I think that's it for my demo, but before I leave you, I just want to let you know that you can go to plugin.nativify.com if you want to sign up for beta testing or help me name the spell checker plugin, or you can just follow me on Twitter. I usually post about what I'm doing most of the time there. Yeah, thank you.
Cool, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
I'll just pass on a couple of questions that came up while you were presenting. Both of them are about spell check. The first question, I believe, was, do you have any plans, maybe after you implement the spell check, to do the same thing for things like grammar?
Actually, since this is using the Microsoft API, it also does grammar checking. For example, when I typed I in a lowercase letter, since it noticed that it was at the start of the sentence, it capitalized it and it added some punctuations. So that's always going to depend on what the Microsoft API does.
Cool. And the other question was, do you have any plans to support spell check for other languages?
I'm going to say yes. Right now, English, Spanish, and Portuguese are supported right out of the box. But for other languages, it's not as advanced as these other languages that I mentioned. But yeah, the Microsoft API does support a bunch of other languages too.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, here's our next presenter, who's going to share a little bit more information about his Iconify plugin, including some recent developments. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. I'll pass the screen share over to you and you can introduce yourself.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, do you see my screen?
Looks great.
Okay, so I've prepared some slides and quite long demo. So huge thanks to Figma team for invitation. Iconify plugin, as its name suggests, is all about icons. So small icons that are used in almost all applications and web pages. I have split this show and tell into 4 parts. Part 1 shows current version of plugin, and that's the longest part. That part 2 is about using icons in HTML. Part 3 shows next version of plugin that is about 50% ready. And in part 4 I will talk about publishing icons directly from Figma to Iconify and to web. One second. So in first part, I will show you how current version of plugin works. For this purpose, I have created a basic UI mockup that could use some icons. So first you need to install plugin, then as any other plugin, you need to open it by searching it in menu. When you open plugin, it will show you a list of icons. There are over 40,000 icons from different popular icon sets. So there are material design icon sets, font awesome, Ion icons, feather icons, dash icons, and so on. If you scroll below, there are also several emoji sets. Then there are branding social, logos, then, and more other icon sets. So there are over 50 icon sets and over 40,000 icons. So for navigation, there's search for menu. As you can see, there are many icons that are suitable for menu from different icon sets. When you click any icon, there's a footer appears. We can see that icon. There's a name, there's a size, which is important because you want size to match what you want. Otherwise, some icons might look blurry. And buttons to add icon and then close. So this will add and then close plugin. And option to change color. For example, I want to put this in navigation. Navigation is on black background. Default color is black, so it needs to be white. Type just white. And usually I would click add icon. However, if you just click add icon without selecting layer, it will put icon in middle of your viewport. But here I want to put it in navigation layer. So I'll navigate to that header here. And if I selected layer and then clicked add icon, that icon will be placed in top center of selected layer. So then I can move it to correct location. In this mockup, there are also some lorem ipsum text. I'd like to add some emojis in it. Why would I do that? Because if you use emojis as SVGs, these are all vector icons, then all your visitors will see same emojis regardless of the operating system. So it's a good idea to add emojis as vector icons. So let's find some cat emojis. Yeah, there are many cats. Let's pick this one. Oh, this icon is 128 by 128, so it's a big icon. When you import big icon, Uconify will scale it down to about 32 pixels, well, less or more, if it can be scaled. Some icons have weird dimensions, so Uconify will keep them as they are. So I will add this icon. As you can see, new layer appeared here. Then on right side of here, you can see name of icon set where icon is from, not emoji. If you click it, plugin will show all icons from that icon set. So let's find some emoji. Well, maybe this one, and add it as well. Here, plugin added two emojis, both as vector shapes. You can see there are different parts of it. However, they are too big. They are scaled to 32 by 32. So let's scale it down a bit. First, click constraint proportions to make sure icons are scaled correctly. Then scale it to 24. Then move them in place. Yeah, and here. So the short demo showed how to use plugin. When you no, actually I forgot one thing. When you're searching for icons, you can by default it shows only one page of results. You can click more results. It will show you other icons. Well, there are cats, and this well, this is a long name. It also contains cats somewhere here. So it will show many icons. And if you click any icon set, it also shows categories that will help you sort icons. There are two search fields when you're browsing icon sets that might be confusing. First one on top, this one is for searching all icon sets, and this one is for searching only current icon sets that you have selected. Okay, so this is a short demonstration of plugin. Next part I want to talk to you about is Canify project. One second. Yeah, slide moved for some reason. Okay, so Iconify project. Iconify is not just a plugin for Figma, it is a much bigger project. Every icon you can import in Figma with plugin can also be used with Iconify SVG framework or as a React component. Iconify SVG framework is the main part of Iconify project. Creating that framework was the initial goal of project. So what is Iconify framework? You're probably familiar with fonts, with icon fonts. They're popular because they're very easy to use. However, you're limited only to using icons in selected font. So if you need icon not available in selected font, you need some other solution, probably building custom font or maybe using separate icon. It's a very complex process. Another issue is when you load font, it loads entire font with all icon sets. For example, font Awesome 5, which is probably the most popular font, contains two components: CSS, which is 57 kilobyte, that's not much, and fonts that are over 1 megabyte. That is huge. So Iconify SVG framework, it works similar to fonts. It has similar simple to use script syntax. You just need to put placeholder with name of icon. You can style icon using font size and color in CSS, just like font. The difference is it's smaller, much smaller and faster. So script itself is about 21 kilobytes, and it loads only icons that you have on your page. So if you have like 5 icons, it will load only those 5 icons. Icons about 500 bytes per icon, sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on icon. That allows you also to mix icons from different icon sets, so you can put several font awesome icons, several material design icons, some emojis, and so on. You can put them all on the same page. Icons are loaded from public API. This is a graph of how it works. It's a basic screenshot from my website. So icon script finds placeholders. It loads icons from API that replaces placeholders with SVG. API is public. It's free. And all icons are also available on GitHub as well as code-free API. So you can run your own if you want to host everything yourself. API is hosted on multiple servers across the world. There are currently 7 servers, I think, or 8. So wherever your visitors are, they will always get icons very quickly. Icons are also cached to make sure they are not loaded every time. Another option is React component. Unlike SVG framework, it does not rely on API. Icons are installed as NPM package and are bundled during the project build process. Only icons that are imported are bundled, and all 40,000 icons are available. Now I want to talk about upcoming version of Iconify plugin for Figma. It was completely rewritten. New version has new UI that matches Figma UI. Styling is based on Figma plugin design system by Thomas that is available on GitHub. So this is, 1 second. This is preview of UI, only UI, and it's not ready. So what's new here? First, you can see there is menu on top of UI. Unfortunately, it's not functional yet. It's a placeholder. The plan, for example, for publish icon is to allow publishing icons directly from Figma to web. So you can just create some icons. You can click publish icon, publish, and then your clients can use them in their code immediately, pretty much. And you don't need to build fonts or create complex build process. Then another change is categories here. This is list of icon sets, and you can click categories to filter only some icon sets from some categories. You also can search here. This searches for by icon set name, by author, also by icon height. So for example, if I enter 24, it will show icon sets that have 24 pixel grid. Now let's see any icon set. There are also changes in icon sets. First of all, there is more information about icon set. It shows author, license, number of icons, and so on. Then some icon sets, like this one, have different types of icon, like baseline, outline, round, and so on. It's an additional filter that does not exist in the old version. It applies only to some icon sets. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention in previous demo for current version is this small button in top right corner of icons list. It toggles different modes for displaying icons. For example, here it's a grid mode. You can only see icons, but if you click it, you can see information for each icon immediately. Sample, icon name, size, and different tags or icon types. If you click it, it will show only icons with that tag or that category, and so on. Another change is search results. For example, let's search for home icon. When you search for something, new version will show icon sets that have that icon. For example, here is home icon. There are 2 pages of them, and there are many icon sets that have that icon. You can click icon set here or here, it doesn't matter, both lead to the same page, and it will show icon set, only icons from that icon set. You can actually reset search here, and it will show entire icon set. So that's another change in the upcoming plugin. There will be more changes, however, they are not ready yet. This is still work in progress. Last part of my presentation is publishing icons. I want to talk to you about it. It's a long-term goal. It's not ready yet. Because of Figma plugin system and popularity of Uconify plugin, I have changed the goals of project. Originally, it was just SVG framework that was usable in HTML. But now I have decided to add publishing process. So I want users to be able to design icons in Figma. Figma is an excellent tool because it's free for personal use. So different designers can create icons for free. If they want to do it for company, well, there are pricing plans in Figma for different companies. You can design it, then because you can find plugins that can export icons. Export will put those icons on Uconify API, so it can be used in SVG framework, and it will show up in the search results. So it will be available to thousands of visitors simultaneously. It will also publish to NPM, and that can be used in the React component. There is, in addition to React component, there is also Angular component, but it was written by one of my users. However, I cannot support it because I don't know Angular. Vue component will also be available soon. So this is it.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. It looks great. I think the only question that came in is, are you considering adding a recent icons tab so that you can find, I guess, recent icons that you've added?
Actually, that's a good idea. I haven't thought about it. Yeah. By the way, all icons that are available on Iconify are always up to date. They're synchronized at least once a day. So if for example, Fontosum releases new version, it will be immediately available, well, within 1 day, available on Iconify. So you don't need to update font. You can just use Iconify.
That's awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next presenter, Jackie. Hey, Jackie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. I will turn the screen share over to you.
Cool. Am I sharing my screen?
Looks great.
Cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Jackie. I'm a designer at Microsoft. And today I would like to show some of my plugins that are publicly available in the store. Go through some of my feature updates, and at the end, I'll give a sneak peek of something I'm working on. So if you just search for my name, you'll see a list of plugins that I'll be presenting today. So the first one that I'll go through is Paste to Fill. This is the Paste to Fill plugin. And the way this works is, let's say you have a design with a bunch of images, and you'll like to swap out some of these images with something you find online. So here I have an image of a really fat cat, and I can replace the images from my Figma file to this cat simply by right-clicking on the image, select Copy Image, and then say if I click on this and then run the plugin, usually I just like to search for fill, and the first result is Paste to Fill. And then I just have to hit Command V to paste in the image, and it replaces it for me. So it adds it as an additional image layer, so I can always go back to my original image if I just delete this or hide this. It also works on multiple selections. So if I have, say, these two images selected, and then I hit Paste to Fill, yeah, so it works on multiple selection. I like how it mirrors. It's like looking at each other. The other feature of this plugin is sometimes you don't have the image open. And so you can actually copy the image URL and then replace the image by pasting the URL like that. So if I have a couple more, let's do that one more time. Yeah. So that's how Paste to Fill works. Next up, I have Button Resizer. And the way this works is, you know how sometimes you type in a text in a button, maybe a very long button text. You have to resize this just enough so that it fits on one line, like that. So you no longer have to do that with the button, resize button plugin. So you just select a button, resize button, and it will resize for you. It also works on buttons with icons or other elements. So, oops, black text, and resize, it works. I can also set a minimum width for my button by going to set min width right here. And then let's say that I want my min width of this button to be 80. Hit set. And now if this text is something shorter, like, I don't know, okay, because it's set to a min width of 80, even if I resize this button, it doesn't go below 80. So let's try that one more time. Resize, it'll snap to 80. That's the minimum width. And just because this is called the button resizer, doesn't mean that it only works on buttons. I found that it works on everything that has a text. And it has like the left and right constraints set up. So if I have a checkbox for something like don't show me this again, I can run the plugin and it'll do it for me. Same thing for toggles, even with multiple texts. It will find the longest text and then resize it. Resize for me. Yeah, same thing here. Show 100 more items. Like that. I've also updated the plugin to support resizing on an anchor. So if I have a button that is pinned to the bottom right, and let's change this to save and publish, and I hit resize, it's going to resize to the left because I've set this to the bottom right instead of resizing like that. If that makes sense. So that's something that I've recently added. Moving on to find and replace. Find and replace. So it's pretty simple. It's like finding and replacing in a Word document or like a text editor. I've personally mapped it to Command F. And the way to do this is if you are on a Mac, you go to System Preferences, and you go to Keyboard Shortcuts, you go to App Shortcuts right here. And then if you add Figma as your app, and then you can set any command, including plugin commands, you can map it to a shortcut key. So here I have mapped find and replace to Command F. So every time I hit Command F, it's going to bring up the find and replace UI. And then I can find, let's say, lorem ipsum. Lorem. Here I can see that I have 21 instances, and I can scroll through each one of them and replace them with, I don't know, something. And it's going to show me a preview of whatever I'm replacing. So if I have www.loremipsum.org and I replace the lorem with something, it's going to show me that in the preview. I can go through that. And then if I hit replace something ipsum, so I can do that one by one until I get to the end. I can also hit replace all. That'll essentially replace everything. Something ipsum. A feature that I've added recently is the ability to select a text, and then when you run find and replace, it fills in that text for you right here, so you don't have to type it in. That's very convenient. Another feature that I've added based on some user feedback is the ability to find in a selection, find in selection. So let's say I want to replace lorem ipsum only on the last two rows of these album images. I can go to the ... menu and then hit find in selection. So before find in selection, I have 11 texts selected. If I click on find in selection, it will limit my search to just these frames. So I only have 5. So if I replace this with my new title, hit replace all, it will replace everything just in the bottom 2 rows. So, and there are more find settings. So I can target lorem ipsum only at the beginning of text, end of text, or an exact match, and other filtering options like case sensitivity and matching the whole word. For replace, you can also like replace. So if I have lorem ipsum and I type in something, it will respect the uppercase L so that I don't have to type in an uppercase A. So that's find and replace. So finally, I have a plugin called Margins, aka Auto Resizer, or something else. I don't have a name for it yet. I'm calling this Margins for now. And what it does is it really is a way to resize and reposition your layers in a different way, much more like a CSS box model. So I like to replace, I like to cover this part of my UI with my plugin because it basically replaces the functionality of the X, Y, width, and height, as well as the constraints. And the way this works is today you can only set the X and Y, so the top and left of where the layer is relative to the parent. So with this plugin, I can also set it to right and bottom. So if I want it to be 24 pixels from the right, I can do that. If I do 40 pixels from the bottom, I can do that. If I set this to have constraints on all sides, and if I set this to 40, 24, it will resize my layer kind of like a margin, like a CSS margin model. So I can easily resize or reposition my layers this way. I can also select multiple items and then enter like 40, or I can use my arrow keys to do up and down, or shift up, shift down for a bigger nudge move. Here in the setting, you can set your small nudge number and a big nudge number. So every time I hit up or shift up, it will go by 8 pixels. Another feature I've added is presets. So let me bring that up again. So let's say that I have 24 and 24, or actually, let me do this. 24 and 24, whoops. And I want this to be my preset. I can click this button and it will generate a preset for me. I can enter a name for this. Let's say this is a top left 24. And I don't really need the right and bottom. And apply constraints, that's fine. Every time I hit this top left 24, it's gonna snap to that position. I also have a couple of more presets, top right 24, bottom left 16, or just an all up 16 top padding, top and bottom padding, and 24 left and right, like that. I like to use this plugin in combination with another plugin that David Williams has created called Simulator. So if I have this icon selected. And I want everything that has the same size and position to be selected. And then I run margins. Now I can adjust all of these. Say I want this to be 8 pixels instead of 3, all at the same time. So yeah, so that's something I'm working on. I think it's pretty much complete. I'm just looking for a good name. Let me know if margins make sense, or if you have any ideas for any other names. All right, thank you.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, Jackie. And I'll just give you a couple questions. Adam wants to know when margins is going to be available.
Pretty soon.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Eduardo was asking if you're looking for beta testers.
Sure. I don't know how beta testing works. So, like, do you publish it to the store or?
Yeah, it's something that I think we had working in the beta when we had the share keys. But I think for now, yeah, you'd have to share the source code with somebody so that they could install it locally as a plugin, like as a development plugin, and then you could publish it later. But yeah, the beta testing is something I think we definitely need to make that experience a little easier.
Sure. Yeah, but I think I'll give it another day or two of testing and bug fixing, and I'll release it probably next week, and everyone can try it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
All right, and our next presenter is Andrew. Andrew, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Well, I'll stop my share and let you take over. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, so my name is Andrew Goodwin, and I am a mobile developer based in Arkansas. And so I really latched on to this Figma plugin program about a month ago after their beta, and I've written several plugins for them, but I was kind of excited to show off the one that I'm working on currently that I'm calling Articulate. And this is voice control based plugin. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Okay. So I'll open up the plugin. Show numbers. Show numbers. Select number 0. Show numbers. Select number 3. Change the text color to lime. Move text down 50 pixels. Show numbers. Group number 3 and 4. And you'll see that now I have a group for these two. So you can also create things as well. Add 3 screens. And not only does it do it, but it zooms to them. Set the background color to orange. And I can even set the rotation to 45 degrees. Rotate 45 degrees. I've worked on implementing almost the entire API into this. It's coming along pretty nicely. I've got a pretty good format for recognizing commands. Let's see here. If I can show the console here. So you can see some of my messaging back and forth here when I perform an action. That's not what I want to show. Well, I won't get into the console too much here, just because we're running up against our timeline. But it is very fast. This allows not only for speed, as you can say, add 10 screens faster than you can actually go and add 10 screens. But it allows advantages for people with physical challenges. When they're doing pixel level manipulation, it may be hard for them to use a mouse, a pointer. With this, you can simply say, let me start my listening back up and I'll show you. Move 1 pixel to the right. And so you've got fine control over, with just your voice, down to the pixel level. So accessibility was a big thing for me, and I'll continue to make it as accessible as possible. And last but not least, when I learned I was going to be a presenter for this, I challenged myself to create a plugin in 2 days. So I actually did this one in about 6 hours. But this one I am calling Text Setter. And so I've already added a couple of rules. As you can see, you can give the rule a title and go by size or by color. So you can set a color for one you're wanting to search for. And you can add a new rule. And so I'll add one called context labels. And I will do Helvetica of some sort. And okay. That's a little preview for what you've selected. So let's see here. And I'll make it size 8 to 16. All right, and I'll save it. And now I can run this rule on my screen, all my screens, and apply them. So if I easily want to try out new fonts, I can come here, change it to something different. Let's find a better font. And save it, and then apply. And so I made that in about 6 hours. The last thing you can do is preview what it looks like. And there's a popular tab, which there's not a design guidelines for asking people for permissions, but I'll probably ask people if they would like to share their font combinations. And this tab will show popular combinations, recent combinations all across Figma. That's kind of the thought. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's all I've got for mine.
That's amazing. I don't know if you had a chance to see the chat yet, but there was a whole lot of activity around your voice recognition. So I think people are pretty excited, and that's such a great use case to build a plugin for. I know one of the questions that was coming up was around like which API are you using to do the voice stuff?
So actually, I'm using HTML5's built-in text API, or their audio, or what do you call it, voice recognition API, which I believe is powered by Google. So I harness all their machine learning and put it into text, and then because of that, my plugin, it has to listen for different things other than what you mean necessarily. So I think stroke align is one of the features that you can adjust. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't actually, the text almost often doesn't come up with the word stroke and align. And so it may say strike the letter A and then line, but I know to convert that to stroke align. So one thing that will be happening with that one is I'll probably be gathering anonymously the text that people are trying to use. And then I'm going, I guess, to try to use some transfer learning to make a special vocabulary around design. So
That is super, super, super cool. I'm sure you have no shortage of people that want to beta test that.
yeah, that would be nice because I'm going to need it, especially if anyone has accessibility challenges. That's one thing that is kind of a shared goal with this one, and so I would like to allow more people to use Figma that maybe couldn't in the past. So
That's so cool. We'll definitely do our best to help amplify that message so you can find some great people to test your plugin.
thank you so much.
Cool. Well, thanks, Andrew. That was our last presenter today. I just wanted to leave everybody with just this resources screen in case you're looking to get started with the Figma API. So we have our API documentation, which goes through how you can interact with the API. We also have a getting started guide about building your first plugin. If you want to use Webpack with asset bundling and stuff like that, you can do that. Rasmus on the Figma team has also built this little tool called FigPlug that helps you build plugins with asset bundling built in, just a quick command line interface. I've also put together a little plugin design system that will give you access to some of the components just with straight HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that mirror what you'd see in Figma. And there's also a Figma plugin Slack. So if you join there, it's filled up with all sorts of great examples of what people are doing with the Figma plugin, and you can get help and ask questions there. And then I've also lastly put together a list of open source plugins, which I'll be maintaining over time. If you want to reference another person's plugin to help figure out how to do something in something that you're building, that's a great resource. And a lot of the plugins that you can find in the little plugin store within Figma are also there. So hopefully these resources are helpful. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today. That was a lot of fun, and we'll hope to do more of these in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.